terms of hand phones and things in a way. So my poor mother was sitting in Madras wondering where I was, what I was doing, what had happened to me. And I landed in Singapore with a handbag, literally with a handbag. And then I, figured I had to make a life there. And, though I had earned and made money in Jakarta, this was like monopoly money now. It was a monetary crisis. So there were dark times. I mean, I did live from sort of freelancing with writing and living from one freelance job to another.
Did you at any time feel you couldn't go on anymore and wanted to give up, or in those times, how did your art help you refocus?
It was always there. I mean, even in these times, I painted. I got a sort of one of the things I did was I got a part-time job over the weekends with a gallery that gave me space to paint in. So, in return for space to paint, and I would manage the gallery over the weekends and created a body of work which they then exhibited. Something sold, that led to something else. So the art was always there as an anchor, as a form of focus. And of course, when one is younger, you also have the energy to do these multiplicity of things and think, it's an adventure, something will happen.
That's a nice word. It's an adventure. Something will happen. I think it was, again, Joseph Campbell. I have it here, actually. He says, the adventure is its own reward, but it's necessarily dangerous, having both negative and positive possibilities, all of them beyond control. So both the negative and the positive are beyond control. We are following our way, not somebody else's way. You're not following your mother's way, you're not following your father's way, you're following your way. And life can dry up because you are not on your own adventure. So he says, go for the adventure. And I like the word that you used. So I think what an important point to pick up from her story is that she found a way to bring in the money to pay the bills while she pursued what gave her total joy, which is the art. And I think even in the midst of, in the throes of that crisis, thanks to your Jakarta experience or Jakarta nightmare, you found a way to work around and to keep your art protected and keep that as your anchor, while you did multiple things to keep yourself afloat in a physical manner. So awesome story there. Let me go to Venkat. I see Venkat always as a, all of us professionals who run our own small businesses or follow our bliss in our own ways. I think we're also at the end of the day business people. So Venkat, starting from scratch, setting up a studio, getting a name for yourself. It's been 20 plus years, 25 years now for you. Your dark times, there must obviously there must have been times when their clients didn't pay on time or money didn't come in, or you've gone, you must have gone through money related challenges. How did you cope with them, and how did you at all ever have to think once that maybe I should get myself a stable job rather than be an independent photographer?
Well, I believe in independence, number one. My struggle was the initial levels, but that initial level was good enough to last you a lifetime. So, right from the age of moment I left school till the age of about 28, 29, so almost 11 to 12 years was only struggle. So, like, uh, like what happens is at that point of time, you tend to people tend to compare you with your contemporaries. Like your batchmates have done this. What are you doing at that point of time? So what happens is after 3 years after school, your friends have finished college. What are you doing? You're just getting into college. So after 5 years, what have they done? They've done their PGs. What are you doing? You're in the second year of college. So it was a constant jibe where I used to avoid meeting people. I used to avoid going from weddings, and because they always used to look at me very sadly because one of the major failures in the family. So not that I felt any. I mean, I didn't feel inferior or anything of that sort. But the fact of sitting there and looking at other people feeling sad for you was something that I didn't like. So there were instances where people would come and say, okay, you want to do photography? You know what you do? You put up a studio next to Mount Road at that point of time. You'll get a lot of customers. These were tips which were given, but at that point of time, nobody knew what photography as an art was. So there's no one to talk to. There's no one to where you can explain and say, look, because that's the future. Because at that point of time, nobody has set a trend or nobody's been doing that at that point of time. As photography as an art, no. It was only regular studios and stuff. So it was very difficult at every point of time to explain to people, no, this is not what you're thinking. You know, this is what I want to do. There's no point of explaining because they don't have a benchmark to understand what you're trying to say. So best thing was to do is to just avoid people. I mean, so I used to completely avoid people because there's no point because you can't explain things. So that went on for about 6, 7, 8 years. And then slowly I was working on my photography and lighting and my studio and stuff like that. But it was a very quiet in my own way. So here you don't tend to, you didn't have Facebook, you didn't have Twitter where you go around saying you've done this, you've done that. And there's no way, it was only with your work that another advertising agency would look at it and say, wow, we love your work, here's another project you can do. So it was always, and the thing is, please remember that was film. It was not digital. It was film, and film was tough. It is not like digital where today, by default, you can get a good shot. Even if you're not looking at your cell phone, you can get a good shot. But at that point of time, it was you need to know mechanics, you need to know chemical engineering, you need to know physics to do photography. Because you give a camera to someone and say, take a picture, they'll like shudder. No, it's okay, I won't touch it, you know. Because they're so frightened that they might not get that shot. That's how photography was at that point of time. So it was tough because and processing was an issue, printing was an issue because anything can go wrong, and there were issues where it would go wrong and you'll get blasted for it. So film was a very tough phase for professional photography because anything can go wrong at any point of time. I remember shooting somewhere and coming back to Chennai. Even before I could check we used to have the civil police taking care of the security in the airports at that point of time. So there were no CRPF, and your machines which scan wasn't always the X-rays weren't film safe at that point of time. You're not sure.
Right, yeah.
So you would shoot about 50, 60 rolls of films over a period of 10 days. And that guy, even before you look, the constable would have taken and chucked it into the X-ray machine. And you were like, by the time it comes out to the other end, you don't know whether your images which you slogged for the last 12 days are in that, you know. So these were the days. So, I mean, experience, but that's how it was.
So at no point did you think of going back to a more secure, financially secure opportunity?
No, never. Because I'd already kind of burned my bridges. I was there. That was the only, and the thing is, I never felt that way because I enjoyed doing what I liked. I mean, what I was doing, and I enjoyed every bit of it. So there was no point of time, even to this day, where I regret, even in terms of the process of shooting or all the odds you face in that. It's part and parcel of it. I always enjoyed doing it. So there was never, because you know what happens is when you suffer or go through this tedious process and get there. I mean, there's no way you can look at it as an alternative. It's your main profession. So
and the very reason you're going through that or willing to go through the ordeal
because you like
is
it.
Because you're enjoying the process as much as the goal that you have.
Exactly.
I kind of picked up a point here which I thought I'll elaborate on. This whole thing of the word failure comes very easily to people around us. We use it all the time as well. We label people as failures if they've not been financially settled, or they're choosing to do something which is different. And we went through that. Vani and I have gone through that as well, which I've talked about in my book. And we're still going through that, where we have no money and we owe a lot of money to a lot of people, And people come and tell us, why don't you try and do Amway? You know, why don't you take up an Amway distributorship? Why don't you get into real estate? Why don't you're so well connected with chief executives, why don't you start placing people in different companies and get into executive placements? And why? Because you failed at your business. You failed at what you set out to do. So you should not, try it anymore. And one of the things, so I can relate to both what Parvati was saying and what Venkat was saying, that every time when we sat down, even for a moment, swayed by public opinion, social opinion, family opinion, uh, every time we would ask ourselves, what's giving us joy? And every time the answer would be that the work that we're doing or we're struggling to do with our firm, which is leading workshops and inspiring people to be happy, that alone gave us joy. And so we kept coming back to it and went through the grind. So I can completely relate to the experiences that both of you shared. So there is no trick to this. Many people ask, is there a knack to this? And I'd like to borrow Venkat's point that it's the process of going through an ordeal to reach a destination. It's the process, it's the journey which is more joyful. It might be an ordeal, it might be suffering from an external point of view, but in reality, it is really about enjoying that journey, however difficult it is. I want to come back to Parvati and ask you a little bit about. You didn't answer my part about choosing. So many a time when we try to do something and we fail at it in our first attempt, second attempt, third attempt, we kind of conclude that it's not happening. But it's probably not happening the way we want it to happen. Maybe there is a different way it will happen, and you've got to keep trying. So I see that point, beautiful point you made there. But why Chennai? I mean, you were doing Singapore. I mean, you could have gone to Mumbai. You could have gone to New York. Why Chennai? And I mean, it's like you just increased your level of challenge, uh, you know, suddenly. So why Chennai?
Um, I guess a variety of reasons. Perhaps the most important one being my mom lives here, and I'm very lucky to have a mother with whom I have, knock on wood, a fantastic relationship. It's a very nurturing one, and it's a very a loving one. And when I came back, one of the reasons was to sort of be here and be around her, and it sort of gave me a support structure which would help with the making of art. I mean, if I went to a completely new place and then had to do the whole thing of find a job to pay the bills to blah 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 blah, then it sort of defeated the purpose to a large extent. Um, the other thing that I did when I came back is that I adopted a little girl from Chennai, so I'm a single mom as well. And Chennai seemed like a great place to bring her up.
That's awesome.
Though, of course, it's kind of, yeah, being a contemporary artist in Chennai does increase your difficulty quotient enormously. The people who are important in the art world in India all exist pretty much in the north, in Chennai. Their eyes are focused on Bombay and they don't see anything further south. They
further
don't.
south, okay.
The curators, the collectors, the buyers, the big art galleries, they're all in Delhi and Bombay. So yeah, it is enormously challenging to be a contemporary artist here, but
But you don't regret it.
no, I don't.
Awesome. Venkat, if you've known Venkat from before, or even if you've known him in the last several years, you would find that he hasn't changed at all. And I've always found him, even when he's working on shoots and he's irritated with stuff, he won't show it. So he's always been cool. So do you at all have stressful times, and does your art help you deal with it better?
Uh, Being a photographer, I think when we used to shoot with medium formats like the Mamiya and the Hasselblad, where we need to look down. You need to bend and look into the
Right.
viewfinder,
Yeah.
because it's a mirror thing. So your back was always stressed. You're always looking, you never at 35 mm you see it straight, but I always felt that photography, uh, a lot of importance to how fit you are. It's because I learned that, because I've learned a lot of things from what I see. Because what happened was, when late 80s, 90s, there were about 9 to 8 photographers based in Chennai were doing extremely well in terms of industrial photography, product photography. And then by 2000, most of them kind of gave up photography, which was very strange to me, but that was an eye opener for me. So somehow I thought there is a shelf life to be a photographer, because maybe after 10, 12 years you need to quit. I don't know what the reason was. But somehow I felt was, physically you need to fit, you need to be really fit, because it takes that kind of pressure, physical, mental, because we're not talking about, we're talking about like almost like shooting a film, in the sense there are studios, there are setups being done, there are art directors working on it, there are painters, there are carpenters, there are what do you call, visual artists working with it, there are art directors working with it, there are models there are makeup artists. So it's a lot of stuff which is happening, and where you need to have a complete control over what is happening. So a shoot is not like going in the morning at 7 or 8 and just getting back. No, it's like it starts a week ahead, planning and then executing it, and then the post production. So I always felt you need to be physically fit. And fortunately, right from a kid, I used to run. So I'm still running. So it helps a lot. So I think it's a not. I don't think it's just photography, but all over, because especially when you take artists, you tend to give them that leverage that, yeah, they can drink a bit, smoke a bit more, because they're
They're
artists.
creative.
Yeah,
They're
they're creative people. So I don't believe in that, because fine, you can do that, but I feel your body is it's a temple. I mean, it's a because you don't know what's there. It's something that you're lucky that you're walking, because unless you see people around suffering from so many other ailments, because you should really know that you're really lucky having a body which can actually get you to one place to another. So you need to treat it well, and that's what is going to take you places in terms of your work also. So you need to give that importance to your health. So
So that's another dimension of it. That if you really love the work that you're doing, you'd probably pay more attention to the way you're working, and his work, like any of our work, demands a certain higher level of physical fitness, and I think we see that in Parvati as well. That people who really enjoy their work, they look a lot. A lot better than most other people. So we see that we have two beautiful people over here. And I'd like to add one more thing about this aspect of the connection between the joy which you feel within you when you do what you love doing, and your physical fitness. There is a deep connection, and Vani and I, we're not as fit as Venkat and Parvati are, but for the amount of stress that we've been handling over the last 7-8 years, it's remarkable that my sugar levels are low, or nil rather, without any medication. That we don't have any serious setbacks, including things like depression and stuff like that, because when nothing is working, when you have no money, the chances are that you will end up being depressed. And I've found that the reason why we are able to face any situation is because at the core of it all is the fact that we are enjoying what we are waiting to happen in our life. We're enjoying that process of working towards reaching that point where our work will come back to us, and we will be continue to do what we love doing. So I think there's a deep connection there between how you feel when you do what you love doing, and how fit you are to take on that role. So awesome chatting with all of you. I think we should now open up the floor for questions. So please do ask questions that are more focused on the aspect of bliss, and I'll moderate the questions for you. We have mics going around as
Hello,
well.
my question is to Venkat Ram, sir. Sir, actually, you are a trendsetter. There's no doubt that your photographs are so beautiful, and the lights and shadows are very distinctive. There's no doubt on that. My question is this, sir. Today, what happening is that people recognize themselves as a photographer before others recognize them as a photographer, right? It's a very chaotic world. This is something what's happening. My request, my thing is like, how do you focus yourself in today's world, sir? As you know, everybody say themselves photographer. They start a page, and that's what's happening. How do you stay focused in such a noisy world? That's the first question. My second question is like, as you know, photography equipments are more easy to procure, and it's become easy to click, as you said, like film to now. Now also, the autofocus. Now you can take a photo and then you can do focus on computer. What is the future of photography, sir, in your view? How this will evolve, actually? That's my two questions I have. How you focus, and what is the future of photography?
I mean, not that I'll prevent him from answering the second question, but the first question is more connected with what we're talking.
See, as I told you earlier, what happens now is moment you want to be a photographer. The immediate thing is, I know a lot of people who come to me and ask me about how to be a photographer, or what is it to be a photographer. The first thing is they want to know is how much does it pay, like any other thing. Then, if they get into photography, how fast can I be known as a photographer, a well-known photographer? And how many likes do I get in my Facebook or the Twitter or whatever? And they go into agencies who help them doing it and stuff. There's no need to go into big professional agencies. There are a lot of kids out of college who are able to do that right now. But anyway, now the thing is, photography is all about a passion. It's about light. It's about capturing light in its different whatever. The thing is, you need to be focused, and it's a passion. So you need to enjoy it, and that's all it is. It's not about who's going to think what about it and who you are and how big you are and whether you're working with a well-known person or not a known person, or whether you're working just with a bottle of water which you have to shoot. Because everybody wants to know whom you're shooting with, what you're shooting with. Because I remember earlier, I mean, I'm talking about 10 years back when they interviewed me, they said, now that you've shot so-and-so, what's your aim? Whom do you want to shoot next? I said, it doesn't really matter, because I enjoy shooting whom I'm shooting at that point of time, and that is my priority for that day. It could be an ant, it could be a cockroach, it could be anything. It could be a fresher in modeling